In this world, it is easy to find oneself caught up in the anger and bitterness that arises from being disrespected. We live in a time when offense can be taken at the slightest provocation and tempers flare in a moment's notice. However, let us step back and reflect on a deeper truth, one rooted in both wisdom and faith. There is power in choosing to walk away when disrespected. For God, in His infinite wisdom, sees all. Consider for a moment the way we react when others treat us unfairly. Our natural response may be to defend ourselves, to argue, to show the world that we are not to be disrespected. But this impulse, though understandable, is often counterproductive. The more we engage in confrontation, the more we risk losing our peace of mind, our focus, and perhaps even our sense of self-worth. The truth is that in these moments of discord, we must resist the urge to let our emotions govern our actions. Instead, let us look to a higher principle, the belief that God, in His perfect justice, sees all things, even the hidden acts of malice and the unspoken words that may wound us. He is not blind to our suffering, nor deaf to our cries. In fact, it is often in these very moments that He works the most powerfully. You need not take matters into your own hands, for there is a divine plan in motion, one that transcends our understanding. When we walk away from disrespect, we do not give up on justice. Rather, we place our trust in the One who sees all. There is no injustice so small, no slight so insignificant that it escapes His attention. And in His time, He will set things right, not according to our timeline, but according to His perfect will. By walking away, we reclaim our peace. We refuse to be drawn into the trap of retaliation, which only perpetuates bitterness and strife. We choose instead to let go of the desire to control the outcome, and instead we leave the matter in the hands of God. This, in turn, strengthens our faith, for it is a testament to our trust in Him. When faced with disrespect, remember this: God sees you. He sees your heart, your efforts, and your integrity. When others fail to acknowledge your worth, remember that it is not for them to determine your value, but for the One who created you. Walk away from conflict, not out of defeat, but out of strength. A strength that comes from knowing that God's justice is far greater than anything you could ever achieve on your own. In moments of disrespect, let us turn away from bitterness and focus instead on our divine calling. Stand tall, walk away, and watch God work. Let Him work in the hearts of others, and let His justice unfold in ways that will bring you peace. For He, the Creator of the universe, has the power to turn every wrong into right, every injustice into an opportunity for grace. Self-respect is one of the most valuable qualities a person can possess. It is not something that can be easily earned or given. Rather, it is cultivated within ourselves through understanding our worth and refusing to allow others to diminish it. To have self-respect is to recognize that we are worthy of dignity and honor, regardless of how others may treat us. However, this is often challenged in a world where people may disrespect, insult, or disregard us in various ways. It is in these moments of disrespect that the power of self-respect becomes evident, as it allows us to stand firm in our worth without responding in kind to the negativity or insults directed our way. When we are disrespected, the temptation to react in anger is very real. We feel the sting of insult, the indignity of being wronged, and our first impulse is to fight back. This is entirely natural as the instinct to defend oneself is deeply embedded in human nature. However, true self-respect is not about asserting oneself in the face of every challenge or insult. It is not about proving to others that we are strong, capable, or deserving of respect. Instead, self-respect is a quiet strength that comes from within, an understanding that we do not need the approval or acknowledgement of others to know our own value. Why not? When we face disrespect, we must learn the power of restraint. Self-respect is not a reaction, it is a choice. It is the choice to hold ourselves to a higher standard and refuse to lower ourselves to the level of those who seek to belittle us. Responding to disrespect with anger or hostility may seem like a natural response, but it often leads to further escalation, more harm, and a diminished sense of peace. Instead, choosing not to engage in the cycle of disrespect allows us to preserve our dignity and remain steadfast in our own worth. True self-respect is also grounded in the understanding that we are not defined by the actions of others. It is easy to fall into the trap of allowing the words and behaviors of others to shape how we see ourselves. When someone insults us, belittles us, or disrespects us, it can feel like a direct attack on our worth. However, our value is not determined by how others treat us. We must separate our identity from their opinions and actions. Our worth is inherent, based on who we are as individuals, and not dependent on the external validation of others. In practicing self-respect, we also learn to set boundaries. It is not enough to simply know our worth. We must also protect it. Setting boundaries is an important aspect of maintaining self-respect, as it helps us define how we will allow others to treat us. When someone disrespects us, it is not just about how we feel in the moment, but about the long-term impact on our sense of self. Allowing disrespect to go unchecked can lead to a gradual erosion of our confidence, self-esteem, and sense of dignity. Setting boundaries allows us to assert our right to be treated with respect and ensures that we do not tolerate behavior that compromises our sense of self-worth. Furthermore, self-respect allows us to break free from the cycle of seeking validation from others. In a world where social media and public opinion often play a large role in shaping our self-perception, it can be tempting to seek approval or recognition from others. However, self-respect teaches us that we do not need others to validate our worth. We can find contentment in knowing that we are valuable, regardless of whether or not others recognize it. This independence from external validation leads to greater inner peace and a stronger sense of self. A key aspect of self-respect is the ability to walk away from situations that undermine our dignity. It takes strength and wisdom to recognize when a situation is not worth engaging in, when the effort to defend ourselves or engage with disrespectful behavior will only drain our energy and peace. Walking away is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. It is the ability to choose peace over conflict and to prioritize our own mental and emotional well-being over the need to prove a point or win a battle. Walking away is an act of self-respect because it reflects the understanding that we do not need to justify ourselves or engage in battles that do not serve our highest good. Self-respect is about self-awareness and emotional maturity. It involves recognizing that we are in control of how we react to others and that we have the power to choose how we respond to disrespect. While we cannot control the actions or words of others, we can control our own reactions. Choosing to respond with dignity, to walk away, or to simply not engage in disrespectful behavior is a demonstration of emotional maturity. It shows that we value ourselves enough to rise above the petty grievances and insults that others may direct at us. Self-respect is a reflection of our understanding of our own worth and the boundaries we set to protect that worth. It is about holding ourselves to a high standard of conduct and refusing to let the actions of others define who we are. It is a quiet, steadfast belief in our own value, one that cannot be shaken by the disrespect of others. Self-respect empowers us to choose peace over conflict, dignity over anger, and strength over bitterness. When we practice self-respect, we affirm our own worth and demonstrate to others how we expect to be treated, standing firm in the knowledge that we are worthy of the highest regard. Divine justice is a profound and essential concept within many spiritual traditions. It asserts that there is a higher power who sees and judges every action, thought, and intention in the world. This divine oversight ensures that nothing goes unnoticed, including the injustices we may face or witness. When we are disrespected or wronged by others, it can often feel as though the world is unjust and that there is no accountability for the harm done. Yet divine justice provides a comforting reassurance. God sees all, and His justice is perfect and beyond human comprehension. And one of the most comforting aspects of divine justice is the belief that God is never blind to the wrongs committed against us. Even when it feels like no one else notices and the harm done to us goes unacknowledged, God sees it all. His divine awareness encompasses not only the visible actions, but also the hidden thoughts, motivations, and intentions behind those actions. Unlike human judgment, which can be influenced by bias, misunderstanding, or ignorance, divine judgment is impartial and perfect in every way. Nothing escapes His attention. Every insult, every act of disrespect, every betrayal, and every unjust treatment is fully known to Him. He does not overlook the suffering of His people, nor does He fail to recognize when wrongs are done. It is often easy for us to feel that injustice prevails, especially when we are treated poorly by others. We may feel ignored, belittled, or scorned, and the desire for justice in such moments can overwhelm us. The instinct to retaliate or to fight back is natural. After all, we want to see wrongdoers held accountable for their actions. Yet, it is in these moments of trial that we are called to trust in the justice of God. Rather than taking matters into our own hands, divine justice urges us to rely on God's perfect timing and His ability to right every wrong in the way He sees fit. God's justice is not always immediate, nor does it always look like what we expect it to be. While we may want immediate consequences for those who disrespect or harm us, divine justice operates according to a higher plan, one that transcends our limited understanding of time and fairness. In His wisdom, God may allow certain wrongs to persist for a season, but we can trust that there is a greater purpose behind this. His justice is not arbitrary. It is driven by love, mercy, and a desire to bring about ultimate good. The delay in seeing justice may challenge our patience, but it also calls us to trust that God's judgment will come at the right moment, in the right way. Divine justice is not about revenge or retribution. It is not for us to seek vengeance or to desire that others suffer in return for their wrongs. In fact, seeking revenge often causes more harm and perpetuates the cycle of hurt. Instead, God's justice is restorative, aimed at bringing healing, reconciliation, and restoration. Even when we are wronged, divine justice ensures that the scales will ultimately balance in a way that aligns with God's will, even if we do not see the full picture right away. This may mean that wrongdoers will face the consequences of their actions, but it could also mean that they are given opportunities to repent, change, and seek forgiveness. The fullness of divine justice lies in God's ability to work through both judgment and mercy, and we are called to trust that He knows what is best. Divine justice also serves as a reminder that we are not the ultimate judge. When we are disrespected or mistreated, it can be tempting to take matters into our own hands and seek to even the score. However, the Bible and many spiritual teachings emphasize that vengeance belongs to God alone. When we take it upon ourselves to seek retribution, we are acting outside of God's will and taking on a role that is not ours to assume. God's justice is far superior to anything we could administer on our own. His judgment is always just, tempered with mercy, and grounded in wisdom. He is the one who truly knows what each person deserves, and He will bring about justice in a way that aligns with His perfect will. Divine justice teaches us that even in the midst of suffering, we are not abandoned. God sees every wrong, every injustice, and every act of disrespect, and He is with us in our pain. His justice ensures that we are not overlooked or forgotten, and that there is purpose even in our suffering. While it may seem as though the wrongdoers are getting away with their actions, we must remember that God's sense of justice is not bound by human timeframes. He operates beyond our understanding, and His justice may unfold in ways that we cannot yet comprehend. Whether in this life or the next, we can be assured that God will make things right in the fullness of His time. Divine justice calls us to live with integrity, knowing that our actions too are being observed by God. Just as He sees the wrongs done to us, He also sees the ways in which we respond. Are we acting in kindness, humility, and forgiveness, or are we holding on to bitterness, anger, or resentment? Divine justice is not only concerned with the wrongdoers, but also with how we live our lives in response to the injustices we face. We are called to reflect God's love and justice in our own actions, even when it seems difficult or unfair. The assurance of divine justice frees us from the burden of trying to control every situation or force outcomes to our liking. We are not meant to carry the weight of bringing about justice ourselves. When we trust that God sees all and will bring about His justice in His time, we are able to walk in peace, knowing that He will right every wrong in a way that exceeds our understanding. This peace comes not from seeing immediate consequences for the wrongdoers, but from trusting that God's justice is certain, perfect, and ultimately for our good. Empowerment through faith is one of the most profound and transformative aspects of the spiritual journey. It represents the deep inner strength that comes from trusting in a higher power, in this case God, to guide, protect, and provide. This trust becomes the foundation for living a life of peace and patience, especially in situations where we might otherwise feel the urge to react in anger or frustration. When we are disrespected, hurt, or wronged, it can be incredibly difficult to resist the temptation to seek immediate justice or to respond in a way that mirrors the negativity directed toward us. However, faith empowers us to choose a different path, one where we walk away from disrespect and trust that God will work in His own time and way to bring about what is just, held. No, faith in God's ability to handle the situations we face is a key part of finding peace in times of conflict. In moments of disrespect, when emotions run high and the temptation to retaliate is strong, faith gives us the strength to step back and resist the urge to take matters into our own hands. It helps us understand that we are not alone in these moments. God sees us, knows our struggles, and will act in His perfect time. This trust in His timing and wisdom provides a sense of peace that transcends the immediate hurt or frustration we might feel. By relying on faith, we are empowered to let go of the need to control the situation and instead place it in God's hands, knowing that He will work it out for our good. Another way in which faith empowers us is by reinforcing the belief that we do not need to seek validation from others. When we are disrespected, the instinctual reaction might be to prove our worth or to show the person who has wronged us that we are not to be underestimated. However, faith helps us realize that our value does not depend on the opinions of others. Our worth is inherent, and it is defined by God, not by how others treat us. This understanding allows us to navigate life with a sense of security and confidence, knowing that our identity is not contingent on the approval or respect of others. Faith empowers us to walk away from disrespect, not out of fear or defeat, but from a place of strength, knowing that we are already secure in who we are in God's eyes. Walking away from disrespect and trusting God to handle the situation requires a deep sense of patience, something that is often in short supply in today's fast-pacing, instant gratification society. We live in a world where everything is expected to happen quickly, and when things don't go as we plan, or when we face unfair treatment, it can be hard to remain patient. Faith, however, teaches us that God's timing is always perfect. It reminds us that there is value in waiting, in trusting, and in allowing God to work behind the scenes to bring about His will. Patience is not about passivity or inaction, but about trust and confidence in God's plan. When we choose to walk away from disrespect, we exercise the patience that faith nurtures, knowing that the resolution of the situation will come according to God's perfect plan. Faith also empowers us by transforming our perspective on the hardships and challenges we face. When we walk through life with faith, we see every difficulty as an opportunity for growth, both in our personal character and in our relationship with God. Instead of viewing disrespect or mistreatment as a purely negative experience, we learn to see it through the lens of God's sovereignty. Challenges, including disrespect, are no longer seen as obstacles, but as tools that God can use to refine us, build our patience, and strengthen our resolve. Faith empowers us to endure hardships with the knowledge that God is using these experiences to shape us into the person He desires us to be. Faith helps us to forgive those who disrespect or hurt us. One of the most difficult aspects of dealing with disrespect is the emotional toll it can take, especially if we feel deeply wounded by someone's words or actions. Forgiveness, however, is a key component of faith. It allows us to release the hurt and bitterness that can easily take root in our hearts when we are wronged. Faith empowers us to forgive, not because the other person necessarily deserves it, but because God has forgiven us. We are reminded that forgiveness is an act of obedience to God's commands, and that through forgiveness we are freed from the bondage of resentment and anger. By forgiving, we choose to let go of the emotional weight that comes with holding on to past wrongs, and we make space for peace, healing, and restoration in our hearts. Faith also strengthens our ability to walk away from disrespect with a sense of purpose and clarity. It allows us to focus on what truly matters: our relationship with God, our inner peace, and our personal growth. When we trust in God's ability to handle situations, we are not bogged down by the need for immediate resolution or retaliation. Instead, we can focus on maintaining our integrity, demonstrating grace, and living out our values, even in the face of mistreatment. Faith empowers us to stay true to who we are, knowing that God is always with us and that He will guide us in the right direction. When we walk away from disrespect and place our trust in God's justice and timing, we experience the deep sense of fulfillment that comes from aligning our lives with His will. Faith empowers us to live in accordance with the values and principles that reflect God's heart. Values like love, forgiveness, and mercy. By choosing to walk away from conflict, we are demonstrating not only trust in God, but also a commitment to living in peace and harmony with others. This empowerment through faith allows us to maintain our dignity and integrity in the face of adversity, and it encourages us to live with a sense of purpose, knowing that our actions are guided by a higher power.